Hey everyone, Alan Bauer here, Bay City, Michigan. And today I want to talk about my title of this is going to be The Four Horsemen of the Medical Apocalypse and what they are. So, we've all heard the biblical apocalypse, but when it comes to medical, what's really the apocalypse? The four horsemen of the medical apocalypse. So, number one would be coronary artery disease. Number two would be diabetes. Number three, cancer, and number four, Alzheimer's. So a lot of times we like to look at, single things that could could help with this. So a lot of times they say, well, for coronary artery disease, just don't eat any saturated fats. For diabetics, I don't eat any carbs. For cancer, don't smoke and you won't get lung cancer. Alzheimer's, well, just do a Sudoku puzzle every day and, you'll never get Alzheimer's. That would be great if that happened. But there's a lot of factors that go into this. But the cool thing, I was reading a 2006 Harvard newsletter, and what they were talking about was there actually is one single thing that they all have in common. They said the four horsemen of the medical apocalypse actually all ride a horse named inflammation. So inflammation, 2,000 years ago, and what they talked about in medical history, inflammation was always beneficial, the way that they looked at it. So, you sprain your your wrist or your arm, and it swells up and until it heals, and you'll see the redness, the swelling and everything, and that's designed to help out. But today, we actually look at today's scientists and doctors actually look at today as inflammation being the root cause of many diseases that are out there. So it's very, very interesting how inflammation is the root cause. So, what is inflammation? Well, inflammation, they say, is an immune response process. It depends on physical actions, like and I'm going to keep everything real simple as possible on here. I mean, it was a Harvard medical newsletter, but I'm going to try to keep it as basic as I can. So basically, this process for inflammation happens. The white blood cells come in, and the cytokines, etc., so they can turn on and off, and that turns the inflammation on and off to try to help our bodies, rid it of the foreign object, the materials, and everything that's causing the inflammation. So the big problem comes in when it's left on for no apparent reason. It's kind of like, you're running water in the bathtub, and that's a good thing if you want to take a bath. But if you can't shut that faucet off and it keeps running, eventually it's going to flood your entire bathroom and your house, and that's not a good thing. It's kind of like the same thing with inflammation. It can be good, but if we don't turn it off and it just keeps running, it can really wreak havoc on the body. So what happens when inflammation happens? I'm not going to go into all the scientific details of them, but basically there's the things in our body that with the immune system that attack the foreign objects that are in the body. So the white blood cells kind of swoop in and they eat up all the leftovers. Well, then they transmit that back for future reference. So they're communicating too. These white blood cells don't just gobble everything up, but they actually communicate back to the body. So if that happens again, they already know what's going on and how to stop that. So the real problem comes in chronic inflammation. So what is chronic inflammation? Well, there's four main signs to chronic inflammation. So one is having heat. So, like you sprain your wrist or your ankle, you're going to feel some heat coming off that area. And you're going to feel some pain. That would be the second thing. Number three would be redness. And the last one would be swelling. So you're going to see all those four signs. And the other thing, though, a lot of people, like, I've seen it in the chat rooms, and that's kind of what kind of, or the Facebook groups, I should say. It's kind of what sparked this video, because I see people asking for recommendations on different products and things, and everybody's got a different opinion on it. And they're like, oh, don't use the Super Gold 1000. That's only for pain and inflammation. Like, hey, it shouldn't be used for any of these other things. But I think people are thinking, okay, inflammation's just like, like you can physically see it. Like if I twisted my wrist, I sprained my wrist and it swells up, you're going to see that. But what about internal inflammation? We don't see that. Doctors overlook it, we can overlook it, and this is what really wreaks havoc on your body and can be the underlying cause of many diseases. So, what triggers it isn't totally eliminated when that faucet doesn't shut off. You know, when you can't shut off the inflammation, there's still something in there that's triggering it. So these suppressor T cells that are in there don't call off the immune system. They just keep it running. So your immune system's saying, hey, there's something foreign in here. We're going to keep running and fighting it. And after the body, even after the body repelled their invasion, all these foreign objects in there. So the immune system's just constantly turned on. Well, the problem with that, they found out that lower rates of degenerative diseases in people who actually take non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or what they call NSAIDs or NSAIDs. Usually they take that for like pain or arthritis. Now, also some markers, like if they test you and they find high levels of C-reactive protein marker, it's a big marker for inflammation, or what they call CRP. It's associated with severe illness. So if you ever come up with a CRP, you have something very serious going on inside your body. So let's go on to onto the four horsemen of the medical apocalypse here. So the first one, coronary artery disease. So what causes that? Well, bad LDL can cause that. High cholesterol can cause that. So what happens when you have this floating around here, you know, your body sends out things to attack it. And while it does that, it also does damage to the artery walls. And then that causes plaque to build up in there, and then that can rupture and it breaks off, and that could actually end up causing a heart attack. It could block an artery, kill that artery off, and you have a heart attack. So that is caused by the inflammation there also. So the second one, diabetes, the second horseman, that's caused by high levels of CRP, which we just talked about the CRP. And the CRP develops insulin resistance. So insulin is actually an anti-inflammatory. But when we have insulin resistance, it can't work anymore, so we don't have that anti-inflammatory. And the inflammation internally builds up, and then it accelerates that inflammation, and that's what causes the onset of diabetes. Number three horseman is cancer. A long time ago, this is like 150 years ago, one of the doctors actually referred to cancer as a wound that doesn't heal. Well, when they look at cancer today, like malignant tumors, they found that it had high concentrations of inflammatory cells in there. And they're saying that those tumors actually formed at the sites of chronic inflammation. So wherever we have this chronic inflammation, that's where all these tumors formed, and then eventually cause a cancer. All right. So, you know, things like cigarette smoke, asbestos, they contained inflammatory substances which damage the DNA. So like you've heard about a lot of these people that breathed in the asbestos before, or people that smoke, you know, they're actually breathing in inflammatory material into their body. And what that can do, that damages the DNA, causes the DNA to mutate, and then the genes turn to cancer. And the really weird thing about this is your body goes out to fight this, but these tumors and stuff that it causes actually get like new blood vessels built around it, and they help nurture that tumor and help it grow. So the weird thing is like the cancer actually takes command over those inflammatory weapons that the body sends out to it to destroy it, and actually makes it work for them, and they end up rebuilding like blood vessels and everything else to nurture this tumor. Again, that's all caused by inflammation. Alzheimer's disease, the number four horseman. So NSAIDs like aspirin, ibuprofen, and naproxen, COX-2 inhibitors, and other anti-inflammatory medicine lowers the risk of Alzheimer's. The brain, what they're talking about there, actually has its own immune system in there because they talked about the blood-brain barrier and not being able to penetrate that. But the brain actually has its own little immune system inside of it also that combats foreign objects. And sometimes, foreign objects can break through the blood-brain barrier. So when that happens, they release, its immune system goes out and attacks these foreign objects. And what that does, it releases what they call TNFA and other inflammatory molecules. So it destroys those foreign objects, but at the same time, it puts out TNFA and other molecules that cause inflammation. So an excess production of beta amyloid, which is a key initiating key part of the initializing Alzheimer's. And then once this microglia, it goes out there and it ingests the beta amyloid. And once it does, they become enshrouded in fibrin, and they form plaques. So that's what the plaques is what actually causes the Alzheimer's disease. So we just looked at those four things. And again, just to recap that, so the coronary artery disease, diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's all have their root of the problem is inflammation. So now that we know that, how do we prevent inflammation from happening? Well, one of the things, that the doctors do, they do have these NSAIDs, drugs. And what they do, though, it's a fine balancing act, because even though it does lower inflammation, it has other side effects. Like a lot of times they can cause stomach bleeding, liver and kidney damage. And then problem with some of the COX-2 inhibitor drugs, the COX-2 is the one that inhibits pain and inflammation, such as Vioxx. It's actually linked to heart attack risk. So this is where our products at CTFO can come in. And I'm not making claims like this is going to solve everything or, cure anything. And I'm not telling you to stop taking any of the drugs that your doctor said or anything. Always check with your doctor. But what's interesting, our Super 1000, which is enriched with the CBDa, it's actually a COX-2 inhibitor, but it's a natural COX-2 inhibitor, and it doesn't increase the risk of heart disease. Another thing that you want to, that they talk about is, going out and having routine dental appointments, because there's mixed things on this coming in, but they're saying that gum disease, a lot of times that's causing all these foreign objects in there. So what you really need is like a good antibiotic and take it for the whole period to make sure that you kill everything off in there. Otherwise, you have this lingering infection going on in there, and your body's constantly trying to attack that, and that causes internal inflammation in your body. They also talk, to avoid smoking. I mean, it makes sense. Smoking is not good for you at all. You start breathing all that in. You're breathing inflammatory material into your body. You're really increasing your risk for cancer. They also recommend getting a good night's sleep, because this is where our body can, kind of shut down, and it does a lot of its repairing and stuff. So we do have another product. Like if you have a problem sleeping and, you're up all the time, you're tossing, turning, you get up, you can't go back to sleep, we do have our sleep spray, which contains melatonin and the valerian root. The melatonin really helps you go to sleep on that. So if you need a good night's sleep and you're having issues with that, the sleep spray can come in handy. And this is also going to help with the anti-inflammatory problems that are going on in the body. The other thing is actually a low-calorie diet to lose weight. And they talk about doing that to eliminate bad fat and refined carbs. So we want to eat as natural as possible. Eliminate saturated and trans fats, but add in good fats, like omega-3 fatty acids, like fish oil, olive oil, canola oil. Alcohol should only be done in moderation. And So when we get down to our products here, so again, you know, the root cause of a lot of diseases, including these four main ones, is inflammation, internal inflammation within our body. So it makes sense, since CBDA is a big anti-inflammatory, and it's also a COX-2 inhibitor, which will help with the inflammation and the pain, that it's more than just, a sprained wrist or a sprained ankle that you see swelling up. It's about internal inflammation inside your body that you cannot see. So the Super 1000, what I do, I've got the bottle right here. I use this every day, twice a day. It's got a marker right on here where you can do the half milliliter. And I don't know if you can see this. I know it's all backwards. You can't really see it, but it's got a marker on here. I do half a milliliter. It's 0.5 milliliters. I do one in the morning. I do one in the afternoon. That bottle lasts me an entire month. And that really takes down inflammation. And I know a lot of people say, oh, that's only for pain and inflammation. You shouldn't use it for anxiety, depression, all this other stuff. I'm telling you what, this is my to-go-to. Because think about it. You got 1,000 milligrams of CBD in here. 300 of that is CBDA. That's 600 times higher than any competitor has, and we actually keep ours intact. The CBDA doesn't break down like our competitors because we use a 10x pure oil, which keeps it intact and gets it to your target area and helps with pain and inflammation. So when we start reducing this internal inflammation, it really helps with a lot of things. And when you look at the terpenes in here, I've done another one on the terpenes. I mean, you've got some of the terpenes in here that are really good. In fact, I've read articles too. They were talking about CBDA is really good for PTSD and depression for veterans. So, I mean, there's all kinds of articles that you can pull up. Just Google CBDA. And again, I'm not making medical claims on it, but Google it, look into it. A lot of these studies have only been done like on mice, not on humans, but they're really talking about helping veterans with PTSD, depression. This is the to-go-to. I mean, you have major amounts of CBD in there, and you have major amounts of CBDA in there. And it's that whole entourage effect, plus all the terpenes in there that really kick in and do a lot of things. It's my number one to go to. I don't recommend anything. I mean, I know we sell, the other 10X products, the drops, the 500, the 1500, they got a little bit of CBDA. Those were great. Once this came out, man, I switched to this. It's even cheaper than our 1500 10X. It's like $40 a bottle cheaper. And to me, this is the go-to for everything. I mean, when you finally understand like CBDA, there's nothing else I want to take but this. This is it. And now to help lose weight, we also have a couple of products. We have the Keto Creamer. And I love doing that in the morning with my coffee. Sometimes I have 1 cup, sometimes I have 2, occasionally I have 3. If I'm, feel like I really want to have 3 cups during that morning. So I will drink that, and you just rip open a pack, put it in your favorite coffee. Like I have a curry creamer, and I use the organic dark roast, which is my favorite. I know everybody has their own favorite. And I've never been a creamer person. I've always just drank my coffee black, but when I tried this, I'm like, oh my gosh, it just tastes so good. And it's healthy and it's doing good because it has the MCT oil in it. It has the grass-fed butter. I mean, it's just really good for you. It gives you energy, accelerates your fat burn, metabolizes the carbs, and it actually curbs your appetite. So this is great for weight loss. And then we also have the Extreme Keto Shake. Same thing, same benefits that I just talked about the Keto Creamer, but this also has sensory ashwagandha in it, which is like 8 times more powerful than the other ashwagandha out there. And ashwagandha is really great in reducing belly fat. So this is like an added bonus on here too. And then it has all the probiotics and prebiotics. I'm not going to go into all that, but it's really healthy stuff. And then also the 10X Pure vitamin. The vitamin actually has a 10X Pure, so it absorbs better, goes to your target area. But that also helps with the cardiovascular system, helps with the cognitive, the brain and the bone and the vascular. Really great stuff to use also. So by using all these products, what we can really do is to help keep those four horsemen of the medical apocalypse at bay. So I hope you found this helpful. I know it was, I tried to cram a lot in a little bit of space here, but hopefully you understand more about inflammation now. And it's not just, like a visual one. I mean, we're talking internal where you don't see it. You can have inflammation up in your brain that you don't see. You can have inflammation in your cardiovascular system and your heart, all throughout your body, that's going to wreak havoc on it. There's no guarantee. This isn't like some medical claim and I'm saying, hey, this is going to prevent you from having anything. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but this is something that can definitely help. Eat a good, healthy, balanced diet, exercise, walk, don't smoke, don't put all this bad stuff in your body. Eat a lot of natural food like fruit and veggies. Go more plant-based. A little bit of the good meat, like fish and things like that, and chicken breast and stuff like that. So, and then use these CTFO products. It's really going to, give you a much better shot at keeping the four horsemen of the medical apocalypse at bay. So that's all I got. Thanks, and talk to you tomorrow.